We have lots to talk about in today's video, including lots of NHL roster moves. The NHL teams are reporting back to their NHL cities for their first practices today, even though the Four Nation break is not completely over. Lots of players have been recalled from the American Hockey League and lots of injury updates as well. We actually have a small trade between Vegas and Nashville to discuss. Is Quinn Hughes heading to the Four Nations to represent the USA after all for the championship game? There's mixed reports out there. We'll go over all the latest intel and what's going to happen possibly with Quinn Hughes and Team USA. We also have some other updates regarding the Team USA players. Big update on Charlie McAvoy and some trade talk as well. The latest trade rumors today focus on teams like the St. Louis Blues, the Buffalo Sabres, the Florida Panthers, Pittsburgh Penguins, and a few others. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. Let's get started first with a small trade that happened earlier this afternoon. We had a trade between Vegas and Nashville. So the Vegas Golden Knights have traded forward Grigory Denisenko to the Nashville Predators for basically nothing for future considerations. Denisenko, I believe, has 24 points in 42 American Hockey League games this year. At one point, Denisenko, who was originally drafted by the Florida Panthers, was a highly touted prospect. I know probably, we'll say around 2019, 2020, he was at some points regarded as one of the better prospects outside the NHL before he made the jump to North America, and things have just not worked out for him. He's been moved a couple of times now, so obviously the Golden Knights are willing to see if he can go on to Nashville and get more of an opportunity, and we'll see what happens. But at this point, the former highly touted prospect is looking less and less likely that he'll ever get things figured out to the point that he becomes any kind of regular NHL player. As I mentioned, NHL teams are getting back on the ice today. Of course, an exception for players still competing in the Four Nations face-off. The teams that were eliminated, so Sweden and Finland, they do not have to report to their teams and their NHL sites until Thursday. And then the players that are playing in the championship games, so the Canadians and the Americans, they do not have to be back until Saturday. So that's when NHL action and games resume, is on Saturday. So many of these players, I'm not sure why they put the schedule the way they did. It's kind of weird, to be honest. Obviously, games were on Monday. They got Tuesday and Wednesday off with the championship game on Thursday night. And it's a later game on Thursday, too. So to me, I don't know why they couldn't have had the game even Wednesday night, because there's a lot of games on Saturday, and a lot of those players that are playing Thursday night need to be playing on Saturday again, and it's going to be, probably tiring for them, I would imagine, with travel and everything. So we'll see what happens, but at the end of the day, teams, like I said, they're all getting back on the ice today, so there's been lots of recalls. They are allowed to have practice players up that even don't necessarily coincide with the salary cap because of the Four Nation exception here. So the list of teams making roster moves today include Tampa recalling Gabriel Fortier and Gage Goncalves. Predators, Jeremy Lauzon was announced that he's going to be out a lot longer than originally expected. He's looking at 4 to 6 months, so his season in Nashville is essentially over. So Lauzon will not play again this year. And if everything goes well, he should hopefully be good to go for next season in the fall. The San Jose Sharks, they recalled Colin Graff and Jack Thompson. The Ottawa Senators recalled Cole Reinhardt. One other update on Ottawa as well. They had their first practice this afternoon, like all the other teams did as well. And Norris and Pinto were not present. They are skating, but apparently, according to Travis Green, they're skating on their own. And it is unclear right now if they will be available this weekend or not. Norris was hurt February 1st, and Pinto was hurt February the 4th. And at this point, we haven't really been given a whole lot of clarity on either situation, but they did get a bunch of players that were returning to the lineup that are looking like they will be likely to play this weekend, if not very, very soon. Noah Gregor was in a regular jersey. He's been out for a while. Jacob Bernard-Docker was skating in a regular jersey. He's close to playing, which is going to be complicated on the blue line as well, with Matt and Paolo playing so well at the Four Nations and Hamonic being healthy. They're going to have a lot of decisions to be made there for sure. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Winnipeg recalled goalie Campo Kakkonen. That's largely because Hellebuyck's still at the Four Nations. The Devils have put Jonas Siegenthaler and Jacob Markstrom both on injured reserve. So they will be out for a little bit here. Also recalled Casey, Nemec, and Stillman, and goalie Ty Brennan. So they recalled 4 players there. The Penguins are recalled Emil Benstrom and Joel Blomqvist, and while sending Tristan Jarry back to the minors. The Maple Leafs recalled forward Alex Steeves, and the Stars recalled defenseman Leon Bischel. Now, the Bruins also put out a statement today on Charlie McAvoy. There was definitely some concerning updates on his health and on his availability for the Four Nation Tournament Championship game. We do know Charlie McAvoy was one of the players that sat out the game against Sweden, and that was dealing with some sort of upper body injury, but they weren't clear if he was going to be able to play in the championship game or not. And then on Monday evening, he ended up having to go to emergency to the hospital on an emergency basis because the upper body injury, which we don't know really what it was, it's just that upper body is all they said. It must have been some sort of a cut or something because he ended up with an infection. And the infection apparently needed to have immediate attention and antibiotics and then to destabilize things. And then he had to have a procedure to scrape it out and flush it clear is what the words were given. The latest update from Frank Saravelli and Daily Faceoff. So I'm not quite sure exactly what was on. He did, I believe he was stayed in hospital. It was still there for part of today at least. If everything was going well, he was going to be discharged. But yeah, there's no concern about long-term health or anything of that nature. But whatever happened, like I said, it developed an infection. So it must have been some sort of cut. Yeah, so anyways, it must be a bad one too. And now he's considered week to week. So not only is he going to miss the championship game against Team Canada for Four Nations, but he's going to miss some time with the Bruins upon the NHL season starting back up as well. Probably at least a week or two, maybe longer. We'll have to wait and see on how things go. Obviously, McAvoy's absence from the blue line, who are already missing Hampus Lindholm. Obviously, that's a big blow to the Boston Bruins. So we'll have to monitor things there for Charlie McAvoy. It's certainly not a good situation on that front. Now, with the Four Nations tournament and the McAvoy injury, we've had a flurry of updates today regarding injury replacement. So it all started earlier with USA head coach Mike Sullivan during his media availability earlier saying that Quinn Hughes was going to be coming to Boston as a potential injury replacement on an emergency basis, which got everybody I know on social media was all kind of lit up saying, oh, here comes Quinn Hughes. He's coming back, and people saying, oh, he should be able to play. Okay, here's a couple of things. For one, Quinn Hughes is dealing with an injury, which is why he's not there. He pulled out of the tournament, so he was removed from the roster. He was replaced by Jake Sanderson. Now, everybody's referencing the Team Canada substitution, but they were down 2 defensemen. So the only way the NHL is allowing any kind of substitutions here after the rosters are submitted past the deadline is that you have to drop below 6 healthy D or below 12 healthy forwards. And then at that point, you can bring in a D or a forward as a replacement if need be. As of right now, the USA only have 1 defenseman injured. So they have 6 healthy D. So why it's even being brought up by head coach Mike Sullivan about Quinn Hughes going to Boston to be able to play doesn't really make any sense to me. Now, they have some question marks in the forward group. They had Chris Kreider go in on the Sweden game, so he got to play, scored a goal right away, which was great for him. They were missing Matthew Tkachuk and Austin Matthews, and then Brady Tkachuk left the game early in the first, and obviously that puts them down 3 forwards. But with Kreider going in, they were technically down 2 for that game. However, now, from what we've heard right now, Sullivan says that both the Tkachuk brothers and Austin Matthews, as of right now, are expected to play Thursday night. So if they're all playing Thursday night, then you're not short any forwards, and you have 6 healthy D. I don't understand why they would even be talking about bringing in anybody as an injury replacement. So this was all going down early in the day when he did his media availability. And then in the afternoon, because of the time difference on the East Coast here compared to the West Coast, Quinn Hughes is at Vancouver Canucks practice. So, like, okay, well, obviously Quinn Hughes has not left. He's not on his way to Boston. So he spoke to the media after practice. Apparently, what happens? Quinn only got back to Vancouver yesterday. He had been in New Jersey for part of the break. So he got back yesterday. The plan was, before he could even decide if he was even going to entertain going to Boston, is he wanted to participate in practice and see how he felt. Obviously, his injury he was dealing with has had time to heal up here, and he's had a bit of a rest and break, which is good. So now he said he felt a lot better. He said it was a very tough decision for him to withdraw from the tournament, but he's been watching, proud of the players, the Americans, etc. And they were asking him if he was going to go back to Boston. He said, well, the only way he really wants, because that's a big job. I mean, he's flying across the continent, right? And then on top of that, the Canucks are in Vegas for a road game on Saturday. So he'd have to go all the way east to Boston and then go all the way back west to Vegas for Saturday. And this is a guy who just got done flying from Jersey back to Vancouver. So, it's a lot. And he's like, there's no point in him putting all that effort in if he's not going to play. So then later in the day, the NHL, through the various reporters, put out an update saying Quinn Hughes can only play if they're short another player. So if they are down another defenseman, then yes, he would be welcome back, or anybody else, either Hughes or another defenseman can join the team. That's what happened in Team Canada. Shea Theodore got hurt at the beginning of the tournament, and then Cale Makar went down with injury/illness. Makar was able to come back, so the replacement, Thomas Harley, had to come out. So I don't understand why there was even all this big fuss in the media about Quinn Hughes. Like, to me, okay, like if somebody got hurt in practice or something, but like, I don't know, there's a lot of people saying that you just watch, somebody's going to stub their toe, have a hangnail, or have a little slip and fall, or get the sniffles in practice, and Quinn Hughes will come in, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, and save the day, so to speak. I was like, I mean, to be honest, it's a best on best tournament, and he was originally on the team. I really don't care. As a Canadian, if he's allowed to play, he's allowed to play. I just think if he's going to be allowed to play, just have the same set of rules for everybody. So he definitely seems healthier. He said he felt a lot better with practice, which is good. And if anybody else is injured enough that they can't play and they want to bring him in, fine. But it's a big task for him. They made it sound like he was coming when he wasn't. So we'll see what happens. If they get word tomorrow that somebody's sick or there's another injury, it won't shock me to find out Quinn Hughes is on a plane heading for Boston. But as of right now, he's kind of just on standby in case anybody goes down. So we'll see what happens. It should be a fun game regardless on Thursday night. And like I said, if you really want true best on best, let them play. Let it be whoever, obviously Makar is back for Canada. Let them have Hughes. So it's a comparable decor if they can figure out a way to get him in there. So we'll see. I'm sure they're going to be doing what they can to pull their magic here. Now, on the trade front, lots of talk today from David Pagnonia of fourthperiod.com. Put out a big update, providing lots of updates here. And then we also had another one from a different source as well. For one, he talked about the St. Louis Blues. The Blues are a very active team, like we have been hearing prior to the break. He said throughout the break he's heard a lot of chatter around the Blues. They could be a very busy team, although it's possible that some of this business could carry over for sure into the offseason. They're not necessarily going to trade all the players that are rumored to be out there and available, but certainly one or two of them to shake things up for an underperforming team certainly seems reasonable. So we've heard about Captain Braden Shen, we've heard Pavel Buchnevich, and we've heard Jordan Kyrou. They're all out there, and not to mention there's a few others too, but those are kind of the main three players. They all come with some term. They're all different types of players, not necessarily having the greatest seasons, but they do have, a good resume, a good pedigree, and could be a good, way to bolster many teams around the NHL. I know Shen's probably garnering the most attention. He's got the least amount of term on his contract compared to the other two guys who have massive extensions kicking in here. And then, of course, Shen's also a very gritty playoff performer. So obviously there's that aspect of things that he can provide that the other two aren't going to provide quite as much. So we'll see. It doesn't mean for sure that all 3 Blues players are going to be traded, but we know Doug Armstrong's not afraid to make the big moves. We know he's busy with Team Canada right now as well, but I'm sure having Alex Steen basically be kind of like a second GM with them, that training to be the full-time GM here down the road. They've got lots of staff there to look after things, even though, like I said, that Armstrong's busy with doing his Canadian duties at the moment. But at the end of the day, the Blues have some pretty interesting players here. For Shen, it seems to be more and more that we're hearing about Vegas. Buchnevich and Kyrou, I think hasn't really been linked to a lot of teams. Like we heard about maybe Kyrou to the Islanders for a guy like Dobson, but again, we don't know that Dobson is even really available. I think for the most part, he would be maybe available for the right move, but I'm not sure that Kyrou is going to be, at least on his own, is going to be enough for the Islanders to want to move their top star right-hand defenseman. So we'll see. But the Blues definitely going to be an interesting team to watch. Very busy. The Kraken have many, many players out there as well, which Pagnotta was talking about. He said the Seattle Kraken are usually a team that like to keep things pretty tight in-house and don't really let much leak out. But he said they've been having so many conversations around so many different players with different teams that a lot of the info is coming from the other side. But Brandon Tanev is extremely likely to be moved. There's certainly lots of smoke around a potential trade on his front. We're hearing Yanni Gourde's name has definitely been out there. We've heard that before as well. Jamie Alexiak. Gourde's still dealing with an injury, so there could be teams a little interested, but yet shy because of that. Even Oliver Bjorkstrand's name is out there, and Jared McCann. He did say since the last time he put out an update that there's been a lot of noise around McCann. That went from a week ago as being, a maybe player that could be moved to I think it's pretty likely that they're getting a lot of interest and there's a lot of noise around him. So it's more and more likely by the day that he does go. So we'll see what happens. Of course, the Kraken are in a situation where they definitely want to retool here a bit. They've been in the league long enough that they're not having the success they want, that they need to kind of shake things up. And a guy like McCann has been good for them, but he could also have good value, and he's got a good contract. So they could probably get a decent return. So we'll see what happens there. But Seattle also a team that has potential to be extremely busy. With Buffalo, we heard again, Kevin Adams wants to get ahead of the offseason and do some of his business at the deadline. The problem is that he's having tons of conversations. There's lots of interest in a variety of his players, but they're just not getting anywhere right now with the deals to pull the trigger. He mentions again that Alex Tuch, his name has been out there a lot, but he said that even though they're getting a lot of calls around Tuch, that Tuch is maybe not an untouchable, but he's pretty close. So it's going to take a lot to pry him away from Buffalo. He said you throw in guys like Rasmus Dahlin and Tage Thompson, and then you get a guy like Tuch. It's probably next for somebody they would prefer not to trade. So even though his name has been out there and getting lots of attention, it's pretty unlikely that he moves unless somebody comes along with a ridiculous offer. But he mentions Byram, even to some degree Owen Power. And there's some that think that with Byram that it's not a given that they trade him. If they can get the right kind of hockey trade and kind of swap him for a different type of player, that maybe they do it. And if they don't, it's not even it wouldn't be shocking to see him still sign in Buffalo. That they would still offer him a big deal to possibly stay. But again, I think that they'd be better off to maybe shake things up a bit. But again, we'll see. Not a given that he goes, but he's getting enough interest that the odds are decent, but they're not going to give him away. They're going to wait and make sure they get the deal they want. So again, same thing with Dylan Cousins. There's definitely a case where they're not really looking to move Cousins. They know that they would be selling low, and they don't really want to do that. They still have some belief in him, but at the same time, they need to shake things up. So unless a major offer comes, guys like Byram and Cousins may move, but they may not. Like I said, even though Tuch's name has been out there tons, expect him to more likely than not end up staying. There's also some speculation, too, around Erik Karlsson. Of course, we know Pittsburgh is very likely at this point to try to move a few contracts. We talked about Rickard Rakell maybe being available. They moved Marcus Pettersson already, along with Drew O'Connor. And actually, I forgot to mention earlier, but the Vancouver Canucks have extended Drew O'Connor to a 2-year contract. Of course, they signed Pettersson already. Well, we knew right off the hop that they were trading for two expiring contracts, but their intention was to extend both guys, and they've done that now. So O'Connor gets 2 years at $2.5 million. So pretty decent deal for what he brings. But back to Erik Karlsson, one team to look out for might be the Florida Panthers. Now, it's going to be very complicated from a cap perspective, but we know that Pittsburgh, I think at this point, would love to move the Karlsson contract. The only problem is that they're going to probably prefer to do it without any kind of retention, but that's probably not going to be likely for most teams and definitely not possible for Florida. But there's no secret that the Florida Panthers before the playoffs would like to add another ideally top 4 right shot defenseman. And I think Karlsson's kind of proven, especially with what you saw in the Four Nation tournament, when he can play a smaller role lower in the lineup, he can almost be more effective. So I think, obviously there's going to be teams that definitely show interest in him. I know we've heard plenty about a reunion with Ottawa. I'm not sure that's in the cards with the current contract. Once the contract's up, or if he were bought out or something, I could see maybe signing for a much cheaper deal to play a year or two with the Sens to finish things up. But obviously with Alfredson there and the fact that his wife is from Ottawa and they still have a home there and spend their summers there, it's not completely crazy. I think it could happen at some point, but not while he's making that current contract with, a cap hit right now of $10 million. So again, we'll see what happens, but as much as Karlsson is, definitely out there, the Panthers might be a team to watch, but they're going to have to be extremely creative if they want to make it happen. But let me know what your thoughts are on all of today's news or rumors. Down in the comments, we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.